I'm excited to share a story today about a wife who wanted an open relationship but now has some regrets. Hey everyone, I never thought I'd find myself reaching out to strangers online for advice, but here we are. My wife and I have been together for 10 years and married for 8. We met in college and were each other's first loves, so I always thought we had something special. Recently, my wife started a new job, and at first she struggled to fit in because she's naturally reserved. With my encouragement, she made friends with a group of women, some of whom were single or divorced. I was initially happy for her, but then I noticed her behavior changing. She began going out for drinks and parties more often, which raised some concerns for me. I tried to talk to her about it without being restrictive, but it began to affect our intimacy. She was often too tired or just not in the mood. Things escalated when a new manager started at her company, and she began talking about him more frequently, even mentioning how he handled situations that seemed unrelated to work. I voiced my concerns about her growing fascination, but she brushed them off. At one point, she asked if I regretted not having more experience with other women. I told her no, as she is all I need. For a moment, I thought I saw sadness in her eyes, but she quickly changed the subject. Then she brought up the idea of an open marriage as a possible solution. To spice up our marriage, I was taken aback because my wife has never been that kind of person and isn't usually very liberal. At first, I refused and questioned if this had anything to do with the new manager, which she denied. She mentioned feeling like she was missing out but didn't want to lose me, so this seemed like a safer option. I wondered if she was playing with fire, but I reluctantly and somewhat naively agreed, and we set some rules, mainly not to sleep with anyone in our home. For a year, my wife went on dates and had one-night stands. Then, unexpectedly, she started a relationship with that manager. Meanwhile, I had a few dates, but no one-night stands, because it often felt wrong to me. My wife would ask if I was okay, but her behavior didn't change. Over time, I felt that the love I had for her, that pure innocence of our marriage, was fading, and it was deeply upsetting. Eventually, I went on a date with a wonderful woman who had migrated from South Korea. Our conversation flowed effortlessly. She was quick-witted and had a smile that could light up a room. This led to more dates, and we eventually became intimate. I had never experienced anything like it before. She made me feel truly desirable. At first, my wife thought my relationship was cute, but as the months passed, she began questioning it. I pointed out that this was her idea and reminded her about her relationship with the manager I was worried about. She fell silent, looking like she wanted to say something but held back. Then she started coming home early to surprise me with dinner and made an effort to keep the house clean. She also began visiting my workplace more often too. Her breakdown in front of me left me holding her in silence as she cried until she fell asleep in my arms on the couch. Since then, she's left her job, cut off contact with all her friends and her manager, and even told me she's willing to spend her life making it up to me. She wants to work hard to be seen as my partner, but I haven't cut contact with my lover. My lover makes me feel strong and capable in ways my wife hasn't in a while. The truth is, I'm unsure what to do. I'd love to feel that special connection again if possible. My lover helped me through a difficult time, and I'm grateful for her support. We have our first marriage counseling session in a couple of hours, and I'm not sure how it will go. The therapist seemed kind and experienced, eager to help us despite it being our first session. My wife took the opportunity to express everything. She shared how her friends made her question whether she had missed out on experiences because she committed to her first boyfriend and never had the same adventures as some of her friends, many of whom are divorced. The therapist pointed out that such comparisons can often harm a marriage due to differing mindsets, and my wife seemed to agree. She then mentioned that after a new manager started showing interest in her, some friends encouraged her to explore that connection as a chance for self-discovery. While she felt guilty and never acted on it physically, one of her divorced friends suggested the idea of an open marriage, claiming some couples emerge stronger from such arrangements. After a regretful conversation, she convinced me to open our marriage, and her so-called adventure began. It felt intoxicating and blinding, but it lacked the real substance we had built over the years. As time went on, she started questioning her motivations. She could see the hurt in my eyes, but rationalized it as part of her adventure, even though she felt she'd never forgive herself for it. The weight of her decisions didn't truly hit her until she noticed a change in me. At first, she thought my dates would help me accept the situation, but everything changed when my new partner became a constant presence. I began to smile for no apparent reason. My eyes lit up at a text, or when I happily left the room to take a call. She felt a pit in her stomach and started experiencing panic attacks. Seeking advice from friends, she was told this was a normal reaction. But when the same divorced friend who had encouraged her mentioned that my lover seemed to make me genuinely happy, the reality of the situation struck her hard. The thought that another woman, not her, could bring me joy nearly overwhelmed her. She recognized how absurd everything was and begged her friends to help her win me back. But they pointed out that if she couldn't handle the situation, why had she opened our marriage in the first place? In that moment, she realized they were toxic influences threatening our life together. Determined, she set out to win me back by any means necessary. I didn't share much with her, but I did confide in the counselor about the unfolding situation. Here's a revised version of your message. I'm currently navigating a complicated situation with my partner, and during our counseling session, the counselor suggested that no resolution could be reached while my partner is still in the picture. They recommended we book another appointment after tomorrow. The counselor mentioned it's unusual for someone to stay in their first relationship for this long, and implied that most challenges can be overcome. I have a feeling they want us to be one of their success stories. I know this is a long update, but I wanted to provide the full picture. I also want to express my gratitude to everyone who has reached out. I apologize for not being able to respond to each message, whether in my inbox or on the post. Here's where I'm at. I've recently moved into an apartment owned by my brother at a very affordable rate. He offered to let me stay for free, but I felt it was better to contribute something. During our second counseling session, I asked some questions that others had suggested. I wanted to know if anything physical had happened before we opened our marriage. She looked down and pleaded with me not to make her say it. Eventually, after some prompting, she revealed that while nothing physical occurred, they did engage in some inappropriate behaviors in front of each other. This individual convinced her that, because it wasn't physical, it didn't count as cheating, and that they were just appreciating each other's beauty. I was completely taken aback by this revelation. My partner became very emotional, shaking and struggling to breathe as she cried and apologized to me. Even the counselor seemed surprised by her reaction. Feel free to modify any part further. On her knees and hugged my legs, saying how sorry she was. 2, I then asked her what really changed her view of him. She said after she started pulling back from the group as a whole, his behavior towards her changed. Then one evening as she was leaving a meeting, she passed his office and heard him speaking about her to another male colleague. He said he was surprised at how easy it was to get her, and how she is living proof that you can't trust the quiet ones when the colleague asked if he actually fancied her. His response was that she was a pleasant distraction, and that he had absolutely no intention of breaking up with his fiancée. He even added that this was simply to get it out of his system because the only woman who has ever understood him was his fiancée, and he didn't want to break up with her. He also mentioned how he felt bad for me, but you snooze, you lose my wife, upon realizing that she was nothing more than a piece of meat to this man, added by the fact that she betrayed me for a cheap thrill actually made her suicidal. In that moment, she said she left her workplace and vomited in the parking lot. She also added that her first thoughts were, "What have I done?" and my name. "Please forgive me. I'm so sorry." 3, I then asked her if she loved him, and when it was that she stopped loving me, she looked me dead in the eye through tears and said she never stopped loving me, which honestly makes it worse, and that he was just something different. She thought it was love, but now realizes how foolish she was. She squeezed my arm with surprising strength and said she knows she messed up, but she misses us, and the connection we had before all this. She even suggested we move away and start fresh, just the two of us, just as it was meant to be. I then told her, "I'm feeling like it wouldn't be fair to my partner to stay right now. and I need some time away to process everything. When I said this, it hit her hard. She started sobbing uncontrollably, saying things that didn't make sense. She clung to me as if I might vanish. It took both me and the counselor a while to calm her down, but eventually the counselor suggested that some time apart might help us heal. I wish I could wrap this up nicely, but once we got home, I began packing. Then my wife received a video call from her laptop. It was one of her former friends, visibly upset. It turns out that after my wife resigned, this friend and her manager started a fling, but it took a turn when she had a pregnancy scare. This caused the manager to change completely. To complicate matters, this friend was in a relationship with someone she saw a future with, and the fling happened out of curiosity. Her boyfriend found out about the situation when he saw an email discussing the potential pregnancy. The manager accused her of trying to trap him into fatherhood, which led to their breakup. She reached out to my wife because she thought she had managed to save our marriage and was looking for advice. At that moment, I just turned and left. I've been staying in the apartment since then. Update 3. My wife's erratic behavior has drastically changed our dynamic. A lot has happened, and I'm making decisions moving forward. First off, thank you to everyone who reached out, whether with advice, sharing your own experiences, or just lending an ear. It truly means a lot. As for the friend, she did turn out to be pregnant, but the stress of losing her boyfriend has only added to the chaos. I'm sorry to hear about everything you've been through. Here's a rewritten version of your text. The humiliation from the affair led to her losing the baby. She became furious and took decisive action against the manager, exposing him to upper management and his fiancée. Out of curiosity, I found his fiancée on Facebook. From her profile, she seemed like the quintessential small-town girl. She's a special needs teacher, a homebody, and very family-oriented. It made me wonder why he would risk everything for someone else when he had her at home. It's a mystery how some men end up with women like her. A former friend reached out to me, wanting my perspective on the situation as she was gathering evidence against him. She suggested meeting in person since we had both recently tested negative for COVID, and I agreed. The moment I saw her, I could tell she was struggling. The dark circles under her eyes and the distress in her expression showed she hadn't slept well and was grappling with her own thoughts. She thanked me for meeting and apologized for her involvement in the affair. It turned out she had spoken with my wife again and learned about my move. She didn't try to shift the blame and wanted to take responsibility, which is why she sought this meeting. I appreciated her honesty, but asked why she felt compelled to go this far. She explained that losing both a child and the love of her life had deeply affected her. She struggled with self-image and found it hard to look in the mirror without feeling shame. Her memories of him haunted her, and this meeting seemed to be a way for her to confront her pain. She mentioned that the relationship among co-workers was a serious breach of conduct, especially given his position. I hope this captures the essence of your experience while conveying it in a more sensitive manner. Here's a revised version. Given his position of influence, he's likely to be fired and possibly blacklisted from the industry. The same could happen to her, but she accepted the risk. After hearing my side of the story, she apologized again and left. I needed to grab a few things from our old place, so I chose a time when I thought my wife wouldn't be home. Unfortunately, she was there. What surprised me was that she had most of our wedding photos laid out on the coffee table, staring at them with tears in her eyes. She tried to hug me, but I gently pushed her away. When she offered me lunch, I declined, saying I just needed to be in and out quickly. Then she showed me a message she received 2 days ago from her former manager, who had berated her from a new number after she blocked the old one. Apparently, she had helped her friend expose him, and he was furious. She got the idea from Chump Lady and Marriage Builders, believing that exposing the secret would diminish its power and give us a fighting chance. I told her I admired her courage, but that it didn't change our situation. I also informed her that I would be stopping marriage counseling in favor of individual therapy, which made her sob softly. She said she understood, I know I should feel either relief or anger about her actions, but instead, I feel numb. This isn't normal, which is why I want to focus on individual counseling rather than marriage counseling. On my brother's recommendation, I've also seen a divorce lawyer, just to be safe. For now, I'm not ready to make any decisions. I'm really committed to fighting for this marriage, and it seems my wife senses that. Before I left, she tried to initiate intimacy, but when I turned her down, she yelled and asked what my lover offers that she can't. She claimed she'd do anything I wanted, but I shook my head and told her if she still didn't understand after everything we've been through, it's clear where our marriage is headed. Your wife is starting to recognize the consequences of her actions. The sad truth is, she would do anything to go back and avoid making those mistakes. But that's not how life works. Maybe she can put in some effort to figure herself out and become a better partner. But it probably won't be with you, as she's already damaged that chance. One thing you can be sure of is that she will always remember you and regret what she did. That's more than many of us get from our experiences. Good luck to you.